Do.
Awesome. Welcome, friends.
Hello.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. We are live here today, and I'm Amy Snell. This is Wouldn't It Be Fun? And I'm so glad to be joined by my friends Shaina Bilow and Keith Leonard. Thanks for joining me today, you guys.
Thank you for having us.
You're so
thanks.
welcome. Thanks for being here. So, I am super excited to hear more about how you guys know each other and all the cool stuff that you're doing together. I know you guys have done a lot of collaborations and a lot of really fun stuff together in the knitting world, but how did you first get to know each other?
Keith, should I start?
Sure.
All right. I was working in a yarn store while I was in college. I was working in a yarn store in Englewood, New Jersey. Keith and I are both from northern New Jersey. And Keith came in as a customer as like a 13-year-old knitter.
Yeah, I think I was 12 or 13. My mom took me. My friend Carol, who was my lunchtime music teacher, was doing a knitting program. But they wouldn't let me enter because I was a boy. So my mom I was just like, I'm just doing it anyway. So I wasn't able to buy yarn like with the group, but like she took me to the knitting store and Shaina was there and we fell in love and no. So
well, as you can imagine, like a 13-year-old, a geeky 13-year-old gay kid coming into a yarn store.
Not nice.
It's pretty memorable. So like I was, I liked Keith a lot. And then when I opened a yarn store years later, like 5 years later, I guess 6 years later.
I guess I was in college then.
Yeah, Keith wandered in and I was like, oh, work here, work for us. And he did. It was wonderful. So that's how we met.
And that has led you to a lot of other ventures in the knitting industry. Keith, I know your career in the knitting industry has really evolved over time. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I get bored really easily. So I worked in knitting stores like throughout college. It was kind of funny. Well, not funny, but in school, I got in trouble for knitting during class. And I remember I have a skull hat to my office. And the professor told me to put it away. That hat's not going to get you through life. And like I literally use that hat as a sample when I teach Fair Isle. Sadly, that professor dropped dead. In person. Anyway, so I worked at knitting stores. I did finishing. Then I started Knits All Done, which was nationwide finishing. I started teaching. A store in Florida called me to come do classes and I decided to just stay here. That was 8 years ago. And then a couple of years, wow, it's been a while now. Almost 2 years ago, I started dyeing yarn and now that's my full-time gig. And yeah. So I always say, and I always love what I'm doing, but I can definitely see myself doing this for the next, how old am I? I'm 29, so I could see myself doing this for the next however many years, or in 2 years I could be doing something I never thought of, and that's just the way I work. So that's so buy your yarn now because it might be gone. No, I'm kidding.
Limited edition.
You are doing some really unique things with your dyeing. What colors and combinations really appeal to you?
So I guess I never really knew where my place was in the industry because I didn't want to be yarn store worker my whole life. And I wasn't a designer. I'm not a designer. And the dyeing really, I love the dyeing. And I know Shaina and I were talking once that I always hear oh, you're so good at color. You're blah, 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 blah. And I didn't realize how color is, I don't want to say a skill, but it's something like when I'm putting colors together, there's just something that clicks in my head or says no. And I guess that's what it is. So I think what people don't see is the amount of mess ups I have. I don't let anything bad go out the door and they pile up. But no, I'm happy. I have fun with it. I don't follow formulas. To me, it's not science. Which trust me, we should all be happy with that. So to me, and that's why really I'm the only one who can do the dyeing, is because I make my colors to what I know they will look like. And I think that really actually helps me with things like dye lots and stuff, where you would think it would be all over the place.
So I was super personally into your power balls with the 52 colors.
I have a few here I grabbed. I I have like 400 Powerballs, but they're all white right now. So I don't even have any dyed. But today I released my quarantine bundles. We're in pretty poor lighting here. Actually, I'll share my screen here to show you them. I think they actually sold out today. I'll be putting more up, but it just gives you an idea of what I do. So like here is the 52 colors right there. So these have been really popular. They were my quarantine bundles. And I take two similar skeins of happiness and I twist them together, and they're perfect for like shawls and stuff. And then of course, Shaina has, I don't know if that's a question. So I'll stop. Okay, your turn.
But she has, right? Shaina, you have designed some really cool things that
Oh,
are.
Shaina has like made this business. Like you can only go so far with just putting yarn up and selling it. And at the moment, you know, I do get a lot, and I always like in my emails, I try to put recommended patterns, but like in this moment right now, I can't keep up with some of the things. So I'm not focused on knitting up the colors. So, you know, I don't want to be snotty about it, but sometimes people will say like, I want to see, can you knit that up? I want to see what it looks like. And I'm like, I want to see what it looks like too. Like, but no, Shaina she's taken the yarn and brought it to life. She has her designs break up the crazy of happiness, and I'm sure she has some of the things there. I'm going to move into some better lighting because I'm losing my sunlight here.
Okay, yeah, Shaina, can you tell us some about the design work you've done with Keith's yarn?
Absolutely. And thank you, Keith. That was so sweet of you to say about my design.
It was on camera.
I know, I can't, it's recorded somewhere, and I'm gonna make it your new ringtone for when you call me. Yeah. So I'm trying to think of was this the first thing I designed for you? The splatter paint?
Was it? There's been so many.
It might have been, or maybe one of the cowls, the mosaic cowls. At any rate, the way that I approach Keith's yarns, since it is so colorful, is I try to come up with designs that let each color in the yarn show. And for those of you that have been on the Vogue shops with me and Keith, or other chats that we've done, you may have heard me say this a million times, but I'll say it a million more. I try to pick little patterns that let each color pop. So here's a lace pattern that's separated. Each stitch you can see is its own color. There's a star pattern here. This is the splatter paint wrap. And then I've also designed things like the beatbox cowl in mosaic knitting, where the colors really shine through. So sometimes when I design for the actual project, you know, where I'm thinking about what I want the finished look of the piece to be in terms of just the piece. But with Keith's yarns, the yarn really lets me design the piece. I think about the yarn and how I want that to shine, which isn't to say that a cowl like this in two solid colors wouldn't be beautiful. Like the design has merit on its own, if I do say so myself. But with Keith's yarns, it like really is a showstopper. And I have a couple others, of course. This one was so cool. And I love the way Keith describes it. Do you want to describe it, Keith?
Oh, yes. This is a play. I'm a little rusty. I haven't been on Zoom in like a month. So this is a play on color and texture, because if Shaina zooms in right here, you'll see the stitches at the top are stockinette, but once you cross the chevron, they turn to garter. So you have the color and the texture going on there. And that one was featured in Knitty, which kind of annoyed me because I had to wait to release it. But it's good.
But that's when I designed this one, when Keith was antsy to get a mosaic cowl out. I said, all right, well, I have another concept. Let's do this one. So this is that beatbox cowl that I was just showing you in black, and this is what it looks like in white. It's so fascinating to me, the way that Keith's yarn bounces off of different backdrops. So my splatter paint wrap, a couple people have made it in gray, and that is just really beautiful too, where the backdrop instead of the cream is gray, and it's just so attractive. So that's how I approach my designs with Keith's yarns. The yarn really helps me come up with what I want to be doing with it, which is nice. I do like designing things that I come up with a stitch pattern or a concept on its own, but with Keith's yarns, it's really easy. So
tell me a little bit more about your design aesthetic overall.
So my design aesthetic is thinking about what am I going to wear? I love to just design for cozy, for what I'm a very casual dresser. So I'm often in jeans and a t-shirt, like I'm very casual. So I like to design cozy cardigans. I like to throw in little elements where I can get excited about a new technique. But really I'm knitting for comfort, both in terms of the project as I wear it and comfort in terms of knitting. So I want to be relaxed and I want to be enjoying myself as I'm knitting. And then I also want to wear something that I know I can live in. So yeah, in my mind though, I've been thinking of knitting a little shrug. I often find myself going to, like, my niece and nephew just had a bar and bat mitzvah, and I didn't have anything to wear over my dress. And I thought maybe I should knit a shrug. So that's something on my list. And that's not necessarily a comfort item. It's a little bit more of a fancy item, but it's like that. I think to myself, oh, what am I missing in my wardrobe? Or, oh, I saw someone walking down the street wearing this amazing striped cardigan. I'm going to make a pullover. I'm going to do it this way. You know, it's just inspiration hits all the time. But my aesthetic is really just for cozy and things that give us something new to learn now and again.
Awesome.
I'm just going to touch on the whole inspiration thing. There are colors, because I dye a lot of yarn colors that look like my orchids. And there are colors that in a million years I would never put together. I would never think, ever. And so inspiration is a big thing. That's it.
Yeah. So, Shaina, you mentioned before that you were working at a yarn shop way back when you and Keith met, and then you had your own yarn shop, and you've also done a lot of different things in the knitting industry. Can you tell us a little bit about that evolution?
Yeah, so I started in college working at a knitting shop that was near my house, and it was fun. I really enjoyed being around the yarn and organizing it and working with customers, and I learned a lot there about patterns and fixing mistakes and things like that. People would come in and you kind of have to help them. You have to figure out how you can help them. So I ended up, so I really enjoyed that. And then I started working at my friend's shop in Red Bank, New Jersey, which is about an hour south of where I was living. I had a boyfriend who lived down there, and I can't just like go and hang with my boyfriend. I have to actually work somewhere. You know, I felt like I wanted to work. So I found this yarn shop. I started working for my friend Dory. And then I realized I would love to own my own yarn shop. Dory is a young woman. She was just a little bit older than me, and she really inspired me. So she trained me a little bit in writing patterns, doing finishing, and the general business of yarn stores. And then I opened a shop with my mother and my sister right after I graduated from college, because I didn't know what else to do with life. So I had a yarn shop for 5 years. That's where Keith and I became very close. And then I got married to not the boyfriend from Red Bank, but a different fella, Matt. And I just decided with my mom and my sister that it was time to, you know, close the shop and do different things in life. So I ended up then teaching people. My customers from the shop started coming to my home. I had a studio there, and I would just work with them on whatever they were working on. And then I started doing more design work. And then Keith got sick right before Vogue Knitting Live, and I was his substitute teacher. And ever since then, I've been teaching the larger groups on a larger scale, more national, which has been awesome. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's really an amazing career that I've got going on. It's really a nice way for me to use all of my talents, I guess.
That's awesome. So when I got to know you guys, we were all together at the Webb's retreat just a couple months ago, and you guys were team teaching, which I thought was super interesting.
It was so interesting.
I would like to hear more about that.
Total shit show.
Um, it- uh, so let's see.
I think we're just both so passionate. Oh my
There
God.
were disagreements. We'll just put it that way. Thank you. We just had a comment from Carol. She was in one of those classes and she said she thought it was awesome. That is so great.
It was
Thank
a very of like, this is the best way to do. Well, actually, Keith, this is this. Well, actually, Shaina.
These poor students, they were like, whiplash from who am I listening to?
Oh my God.
We had a moment. I think by Sunday, was Sunday the last day of teaching or it was Saturday? Whatever day it was, I think I looked at Keith right before our morning class and I said, "This is the day our friendship dies."
I was like, okay.
We took a selfie to mark the occasion, but we made it through. We pulled through. So I guess all of that is to say it had its challenges for Keith and I, who are very much. We each have really specific ways of doing things.
The funny thing is, it had nothing to do with like, we did things the exact same way. We called it or used different phrases, but like the end product was the same. That was
Yes,
100% the same. It was so funny.
it was funny. Would we do it again, Keith?
Oh, totally.
Oh.
Oh, totally.
All right.
That's awesome.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. And if you had to guess which one of us ended up making all the handouts, making sure we had enough for each class, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh my
who
God,
would
I
you
didn't do
think that-
anything. She did all the handouts, all the homework, all the descriptions. I just showed up.
Yeah, I did the photos. Yeah.
I have to
my
dye
bet.
the
This is
yarns.
me.
That's my excuse around here. That's why I don't do laundry. I don't do dishes. I don't clean.
I want
dye
your
the
life,
yarn.
Keith. I want your life.
It's really easy. You find someone to marry and you say, yo, I don't do dishes. I don't do laundry. I don't clean.
It's not that hard, I guess. All right.
Well,
Well,
teaching a Zoom class on it next week. I'll put more details.
Keith, I was gonna go somewhere around the whole like the gender stereotypes and what happened to you when you were young and wanted to start knitting, but you're really messing with my argument here.
I mean, I think that would be a huge deal today.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be like internet everywhere.
that one
Yeah,
kid wasn't
yeah.
allowed to take knitting.
Where back in my day, 28 years ago, it was not 28 years ago, I'm only 29. But it was not appropriate for a guy to be in the knitting club.
I mean, that stuns me even to say, okay, so what was it, 16 years ago or however long ago? That stuns and disappoints me. But you seem to sound like you think that is different today. Do you think that's different today?
Yes, I think that I think if something like that happened today, we would hear about it.
I would hope so.
I would hope that wouldn't happen today. And like, it didn't even, I don't know. I was a little delayed. So like, it wasn't like I was sad because I couldn't be in the knitting club. I just did what I always did and said like, okay, I'm doing it anyway. So let's go get yarn. Like I went to my mom and said, there's a knitting club. We have to go buy yarn. Like, instead of like,
I'm surprised, Keith, just knowing Carol, knowing the person that ran the club, I'm surprised. I don't know. I guess I'm just so surprised that that she let that slide, that the school.
I don't think that was her thing. Because it wasn't a thing. That's the thing. It wasn't a thing. It was like all I remember is that I went out and got my own materials. I didn't go through the sign up list. But it was also like, it wasn't like it was a sit and knit at lunchtime. Like, it wasn't like a school like it was, I don't know.
Yeah.
We're making it a bigger thing here than it was. That's for sure.
I guess it's causing me to reflect on my experiences as a volunteer teaching knitting in schools. I've taught from like 6-year-olds to high schoolers. And I'm thinking back on it, and I think I've always taught more. There's always been more boys, and I think it's because
Yeah.
I'm a
Well,
mom of boys.
I taught at the Calhoun School in New York City, and I walked in, and these kids had Louis Vuitton backpacks and iPads, and they were 6. And the boy, like, kids are fearless. They don't care if they make a mistake. Like, they just keep. So it was so much easier.
It's fantastic. I love teaching the little guys, because it was such a. I mean, again, I was the mom of boys, and my boys were active and they were busy, and I just kept trying to put yarn in their hands. Even the one that just would only finger knit, like, fine, finger knit because you're scoochy, and it would keep him so busy. And I just, I loved putting knitting needles into little boys' hands
Yeah.
maybe before they were at an age where anybody told them that they didn't belong there.
In 2001, I was a summer camp counselor, and I taught the knitting group. They let each counselor, decide what they were good at. And I said, oh, I'm good at knitting. I'll teach kids how to knit. And we had a lot of young guys in the knitting group. I would say it was half and half, girls and boys. And that was really interesting.
It could have, my experience could have been a protection thing too. I was already so bullied. They didn't want to put another thing that was like gonna make.
Poor Keith.
It's okay. I made it through.
You did.
And we're glad you did. I wanted to touch back on our experience teaching again in person. We were at Webb's in September. Shaina and I were able to spend some time together at Rhinebeck the other week. These things, I don't know, how is it for you? These things are new for me. These things are different for me now. I would love to hear
Oh, I
how
mean,
these things feel for you.
I think there's 2 types of knitters. There's the if you're there for the social aspect, you're in person. But if you actually want to learn, hands down, Zoom is the way to go. It's I mean, when I first heard about virtually teaching, I was that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And then I don't think many people realize, but the very first virtual Vogue, we had no clue. I think they even said just go with it. We no, they don't know either. I signed off of that class, and there was 30 something people in the room. And I was just whoa. First of all, that was what would usually be a 3-hour class in 2 hours. And I had nothing to do at the last 10 minutes. Everyone was okay, we got it. This is great. Thank you. It was, I just think when you could see the hands, it's so much.
Oh, I agree.
Listen, it might be different for someone, but I would 100% say the majority would say that Zoom is the preferred way for learning. For socializing, I would say in person. So if you were at the Webb's retreat, I hope you socialize.
You make a fantastic point, because I agree with you. My students are learning faster on Zoom. It's been my experience because all of them can see my hands at the same time, and all of them can see really, really well. On the other hand,
I would go around to every single person at the table, and then it was just before they can ask me if they're doing it right, I would run away. Here I'm there.
Yeah, I'd say the one thing that I find is more challenging teaching on Zoom is when someone has a problem, for them to be able to show it to me, and I get into that with brioche, right? Okay, I know here are the 3 different problems you're going to have with brioche, so I tend to just show those right away because it's really hard for them to show me their specific problem. That's easier in person because they don't have the camera set up usually.
Right. And that's where Zoom falls a little short. The Zoom classes is that you can't get around to each person to check if they're doing it correctly. So there are the people who maybe don't want the socialization of the in-person, but do appreciate the teacher being able to really see. And I will say I've gotten good at people holding their things up to me like this and saying, Shaina, what am I doing? And so I've been getting good at it. Figuring out which hand is their left and their right and reversing it in my brain.
Yeah, you adapt, right?
Yeah, it's been really interesting just to learn that we as teachers can adapt like that we've been able to pivot in the same way that the students have to teaching online. And I do love the dual camera thing where people can see my hands and then they can see my face and I can see their faces. And yeah, it's been interesting. But
Yeah. Well, how was it for you going back to the social side of things,
me
Shaina?
at
Yeah.
Webs, that was a lot of fun. I mean, first of all, to be there with Keith, teaching in person. That was our first time teaching in person. We did a Zoom class together. That was pretty fun, or 2 Zoom classes.
I will also say exhausting. I forgot how you can't
Yes.
move at the end. Like, it's exhausting.
Yeah, that's true. After the Zoom classes, I turn off the computer and I'm back in real life. Here it was a whole weekend of things going on, places to
I mean, it was
be.
amazing, but it was
Yeah,
tiring. I mean, you're not used to
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So the social aspect was nice. And like getting to meet you, Amy, like I know we've taught at Vogue knitting lives together online, but I don't think we've ever connected. But being
Oh
in
my
person
God.
with you, it
Actually,
was
no, no. We went to Friendlies. Okay. One of the last surviving Friendlies. Oh my,
it was wonderful.
so
It was
good.
so
And it was so
wonderful.
funny too, because like we were getting like Amy, like we didn't like really know you, and we were so Shane, we were calling like these nice restaurants for reservations, and Shayna was like going through her phone of what's nearby, and she's like blah, blah Friendlies, blah, and I was like, we're going to Friendlies, and then and Shayna was like, no, like blah, blah, blah. And then like Amy was walking to the car, and I was like, get in, we're going to Friendlies, and she was like, really? Like
I know I wasn't sure if Amy would be okay with that. I was like, Friendlies, I don't know. Like if it was you and me, Keith, we'll go. Absolutely. I'll get a fribble. But like
you
I
were
didn't
so
know
excited when we
I
actually
didn't
got
know.
there.
I was so excited to go to Friendlies. I grew up on the East Coast. I knew what Sunday I wanted. I've not been to Friendlies in about 5 years.
It was so good.
We closed that place down too.
We did.
Yeah, we were like, what time do you guys close? And they're like a half hour ago.
Then no one came over to tell us, oh, just so you know, we're closing
Yeah.
down. Will
They
you
weren't
take your
very
Sundays to go?
friendliest.
Yeah.
They weren't so friendly.
Oh, well.
But it was tasty, so that was good.
It was an experience. It was a lot of fun. And I think these things do really stick with us when we have it again, these are things that we haven't had in a long time. And that, to your point, yeah, we can be teaching virtually at the same show and never connect because we teach but we're not present there. And I think, I can teach really effectively. I can teach my students really effectively, but I don't get the chance to sit down and have lunch with a table full of students when I'm teaching virtually.
Right.
So I'm finding that there are really different advantages to both. And I hope that both are going to be out there in the long term because, for the people that can't travel or don't travel, to be able to still learn knitting and still have access to teachers like you guys, I think is a super, it's a gift. It's something that we didn't have 2 years ago. And now we have in our world.
And everyone was forced to learn how to use it.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah. I remember at the beginning, there were so many, how do I do this? Where do I find the chat? Where am I looking? And now people are just like experts, including I feel really comfortable in this format. And yeah, someone, Win in the comments, hi Win, mentioned that she likes that people from different cities are in the Zoom. And for one of the first Vogues, like I'm an international teacher. I had students from South America and Europe. It was really wonderful. So it's a great way to connect.
Yeah. And Beth makes the point, about what we're talking about that, I think we as teachers can take some of the things we've learned from being virtual and bring them into our into our in-person classes when we can, right? If you've got the ability to have projection and electricity and things and do the camera on your hands, I do see bringing that wherever I can. Not every festival can set up with that sort of thing, but those that can, I don't know, has that, Keith and Shaina, are you guys thinking about how to incorporate some of the lessons of Zoom into your in-person classes?
I think we even asked at the Webs event if we could have the ability to do the overhead cameras, but then we didn't actually plan and bring cameras with us.
I told you I asked and I just completely lied. And
because I wasn't the one filling out that paperwork. I guess Keith dropped the ball, everybody.
It was months ago. We got through it.
Okay, that's true.
I've spent, a number of years now traveling the country pre-COVID, and it's not that I don't want to do it. With the dyeing of the yarn, I can't do it. So I'm being very like I will do the Vogues.
Mhm.
But I mean I used to be on a plane, come home, pack, leave in 2 days, come home, pack, leave in 4 days. And like I can't, first of all, I can't, I'm too old now, 29.
That's the third time you've mentioned it, Keith. I almost wonder if you're lying.
No.
Okay.
So, and like the funny thing is when things have started, like I have booked a lot. And now I am like I'm honoring what I did book. But then now I'm also like I think I said my first 2 no's last week. And like I feel like it'll be easier now. So but I will still be on Zoom. Zoom is easy and convenient. I don't like I've been in that garage since 5 o'clock this morning. So I don't do the dishes or clean or laundry, but like I'm always dyeing yarn. Like I think it's so funny. People, if I'm not like actively around, it's like out of sight, out of mind, and I'm literally in there dyeing yarn. Like it's not like a 2-second thing.
Yeah, your garage is your dyeing space, right? You have that all completely set up.
I could show you if you want.
Oh, that'd be fun. I bet everybody would like to see that.
I'm gonna
Field trip.
yeah.
I can take you off spotlight while you move.
Yeah, while I'm just gonna walk through the house.
Awesome.
It
Awesome.
goes
And in the
from house to
meantime,
house. Yeah.
Shayna, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's coming up next for you?
So next for me, well, I have new design. I have a new sweater that I just put out, and I'll be doing a knit along for this in November once I get ready for it. But this is an entirely stash sweater. Every yarn in here was from my stash, same as that one. It was fun to knit. I have a few, I know there are a couple folks in our audience today who have knit them themselves for my test knitters. So I just released this pattern today. And then I have in the next week or two packages going out. I did a Hanukkah box, like instead of an advent calendar for Christmas, I did a Hanukkah box with lots of delicious yarn from Keith. It all
Love this.
arrived. We came up with a palette together.
But we came up with a palette. Oh my gosh.
We did, yeah. We
that means I don't like this color. Can you make this? No, I'd actually, you know what? I don't like any of it. Can you dye another 40? Nope. You know what? Let's change this blue for a lighter blue.
What can I say, Keith? You got to take all of me, right? This is who I am. Yeah, so that's exciting. That's coming up. And then I'm starting to think about what I'll do for my not every year. Last year, I did a mystery project between Christmas and New Year's. Like that, every day I released a new clue, and it was a cowl. It was a lot of fun. And I want to do that. I want to do that again this year. So I'm starting to think about that. So yeah, and then maybe some collaborations with another fabulous designer. Wouldn't that be fun? So Amy and I are getting together and coming up with some cool ideas for new designs. So, Barbara just asked in the chat, where can we get the Hanukkah box? So right now I'm sold out of the boxes, but I do have yarn loaves. So on my website, shainabilow.com, under Festival of Lights, you can buy still the yarn loaf. And then I have 9 different patterns that you'll be able to choose from. Yeah.
I have all the mess ups.
And Keith has all the mess ups. like this gold instead of this gold. But I happen to really love this color. It's like
That's
awesome.
the one I did first.
I know. It's a really cool color, just not for the Hanukkah box. Thank you, Barbara. And yeah, I'll be doing the Christmas mystery. I enjoyed that too. It was fun. I'm trying to think of a theme for this year. Maybe bubbles.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun.
Yes. Bubbles.
So Keith, you're in your dye studio, right? We can see.
Yes. Okay. I'm not on
I'm
my
gonna.
phone. So let's.
Great.
So this is the cooking area, and it's my cabinet with my dyes, and then there's the sink we got from a restaurant that went out of business from COVID, and there's some yarn drying.
Oh, that's awesome, that color. What's
Love
that?
those colors.
That's some of the undyed yarn.
No, go back to the purple thing with the blue.
There's more on the table of that.
Okay.
That's more undyed yarn. And then
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
that's that color.
What
Yeah,
is
what is
that
that
one
color?
about?
It's a new one I did. It's Stephen B grabbed it first, but I just haven't had time to get it up. It's called Galaxy. Here's the macaroons, which I thought of Shaina when I made that one.
I love that color.
Then here is some wet yarn. Then all the pots are, I also don't rinse the yarn. So I have a girl who comes and she does the rinsing and the labeling. So she will be here tomorrow. Let's see what else we got here. That's a fun one. That's a fun one.
And Keith, what base is that Galaxy on? Is it the fingering weight or the worsted?
That is on the fingering there.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a sneak peek of a new orchid. So yeah. So we insulated the garage, we put an AC in, we did all that fun stuff.
That's fantastic. Thank you for the tour.
You are welcome. This is where I spend my days.
I love that macaroon color. Macaron?
Macaroon.
That one.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's beautiful.
These are all hand painted, so I actually dye these in the sink. They are not in a pot. I have a rack that a drip tray, and I pour the dye, and then it just falls through.
Ooh.
Easy.
I'm really into that Galaxy color. I'm going to be looking for that.
Yeah, that was obviously really popular because
Yeah. Gorgeous.
Yeah, I love the transition of the colors.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
What did you have in the sink, Keith? Is that the color I'm knitting right now?
Yes, it is.
Shall we show it off?
Yeah, so Shaina is
Oh, that's
working.
another thing that's coming up, Amy. And to answer that question, I should
I'm
have
really
written down
excited for
everything.
this.
Yeah.
So Shaina is doing a assigned pooling project design that I have forced her, literally forced her. So it has crisscross stitches. So zoom in really close. So if you're not familiar with assigned pooling, what I did is I dyed the yarn like this. It's hand painted, so it has a little blip of color, just like the Galaxy here. And as you're knitting, when you come up to the color section, you will do a little crisscross stitch. So it is the design is like a basic trapezoid of a shawl, but the yarn dictates how the pattern is going to come out because you're just doing a simple stitch. And then every time you come up to that color section, that's when you make a little crisscross and all the color goes into the crisscross.
Okay, so I have a stockinette stitch base.
It will look really cool with the macaroon color.
Yeah, I think so too.
That is going to be what I'm going to be showing a lot this winter, and Shaina is almost done with it.
I am almost done. And if anyone in the audience would like to be a test knitter, just to get some colors knit up, we would love to chat with you afterwards about that. So reach out.
And how can they get in touch with you?
So I have a contact page on my website.
Put Shaina's email. And then sort through the colors you want and then just send it to me in a list.
You got it. Okay, I'll pick out some colors.
You fall into it every time.
I know. I'm gonna design some of my own colors in that case. Oh, you'll be
I love the elegant elephant. I mean, they're all of these.
That one's so pretty.
Elegant elephant. This one I didn't name yet. Oh no, magnetic magenta.
Oh, cool, because it's got the metal.
Hold on, there's more here. This one is, what did I call this one? Flip-flops. That one will look really cool. Mellow Grello. And one of my orchids. They're just, I don't know which to do for a sample for me because I think this one, I really like the gray with the magenta.
That would
you
be
can
pretty.
play all day. I mean, that's for me also. It's not even the knitting, it's the playing. It's the swatching. I love it. My favorite thing to do is a swatch. It really is.
You do like swatches, actually. Come to
Love
think of it.
all I do. That's all I knit these days. I just love seeing how the yarn is going to knit up and bloom when it blocks and the drape and the whatever. Then I can envision what it would look like in a whole sweater, and then I don't need to make the whole sweater because like
You got the enjoyment out of the swatch.
right. I can move on to the next one. It's the only
So
way.
Vicky just asked what I'm looking for a test knitter for. This one here, which Keith and I only just discussed that I would like to have
This
test
is
knitters
different.
for
It's
it.
inspired by the float shawl, but it is
Correct,
different because it
yes.
does not have those little flowers. It has, which do give you like pretty big holes on the side. It has a crisscross, so the stitches are actually crisscrossing.
Yeah.
So
And what does it have a name yet?
Yes, I think it's going to, yes, maybe. It's going to be called the crosshatch wrap because they look like crosshatches in,
what's
in art. It's when like art that has lines going this way and that way. Like cross-hatched lines that create an image.
How about crisscross applesauce?
Crisscross applesauce. Oh, that's what Harrison
really
says, my son, when he's sitting down. Vicky, I'll chat with you about it. I'll send you an email.
Awesome. All right, now I'm going to put each of you on the spot. Keith, what do you like about working with Shaina?
Nothing.
That's it. You said earlier that our FaceTimes help you fall asleep.
Yes, I did.
So boring is somebody we're looking for a business partner.
Should I show your dancing video?
No, do not show my dancing video. I didn't know you were filming, and it's a violation of privacy.
Wait, well, can you rephrase the question?
Yes. Keith, say something nice about Shaina and how awesome she is.
I did say something really nice today.
You did. No, I would love to hear, what you like about working with Shaina, about collaborating with her or teaching with her or the design collabs that you do.
Listen, I'm working on it. So she is Shane. Can you go with Shaina and then come back to me?
Absolutely, Shaina. Well, I was going to ask you what you like about working with Keith, but maybe you don't want to answer that either.
No, I love working with Keith. You know what? One of the wonderful things about Keith is that he is the epitome of that phrase, "A rising tide carries all ships." When you are part of Keith's world, he helps bring you into it. So he thought of me for Vogue. Anytime when, to fill in for him. Obviously, I live close by, but like he's very generous to me in terms of business. And I don't thank him enough for that or appreciate him enough for that. So thank you, Keith. He's made a lot of wonderful introductions for me, and it's which has helped me a lot. I'm a bit of a shy-ish, not shy specifically, but I don't put myself out there.
Oh, Stephen, I forgot to tell you, Steve, is this going to be like rewatchable? Am I supposed to like, Stephen just emailed and asked if I would design something for his shop hot in a yarn that he wants. And I wrote him back and I said, I haven't really knit in a long time and I haven't ever really designed ever. But how about Shaina?
Aw, thanks, Keith. But yeah, like he recommends me for a lot of things. So that's very nice. But I mean, that's sort of more of a personal thing, like what I get from Keith. But in terms of working with Keith in general, he is really fearless. So in some ways where I obsess and I write the handouts and I need to have everything done just so, Keith inspires me sometimes to just say, you know what, this is good, get it out there. Get it yourself out there. And like today I just published this pattern and I always think of Keith every time I click that publish thing, because in my mind I could go over it for another 10 hours. The editing, the pictures, oh, it's not perfect, let me get this right. And I just say to myself, Keith, boom, like it's fabulous, get it out there. The world needs to see it. So he really is a wonderful cheerleader. When he wants to be, and we make each other laugh. We really laugh. And yeah. So now do you have something nice to say, Keith, maybe?
Is it my turn?
It's your turn.
Okay, listen, I'm just trying to think of something that's appropriate. Like Shayna and I, like we go to take a shower at the end of the day and put the phone on the ledge. Like I'm trying to think of something.
Close.
I'm trying to think of something I can say. Shayna,
He's trying to say I have big boobs. That's
Shayna's a genius. Shayna is very kind, and Shayna is smart. I mean, I get frustrated because Shayna's designs are like so good, and she needs to push herself harder to get out there because like so many of the designs on Ravelry are shit, but they have thousands of projects. It turns into a popularity contest when her stuff like really is like she puts something in every pattern that like just like she did this chevron cowl for me. It's a chevron, but she made one of the chevrons wider. So it's like a trick of she just puts little things that like yeah, so you see the middle one there, it's like just a little tweak. The splatter paint, there's an I-cord edge and you carry the tails and they get hidden in the side edge. So you don't have to cut them every, she gets it. I don't know. I think she definitely has a different brain than most of us because I never even said this. It's not that great, but like she has a knitting machine in her office. And I remember, and like I've used a knitting machine before and like you have to like move the little needles and it has this thing. And I just remember I was there and she like, her brain sees it and she just, it's like an automatic thing where I'd have to literally sit there and look at what I'm doing. And she just like works. She does it. She's a fast knitter too. Got a great rack. Okay.
I love how complimentary your
I don't like compliments. I'd much rather turn this the other way around.
How complimentary your skill sets are to each other's. You know, you touched on this, right? You know, Keith, you're doing the dyeing now and you don't want to be doing the knitting and you're not doing the designing. It's not a direction you went. And Shayna has those skills. She's got the design chops and the organizational chops. And, you know, I just, it seems like you guys just fit together in this way that is complementary in the
realized well you should have seen me dyeing her Hanukkah yarn. I almost stopped like really it wasn't even like the typical joking I'm mad at you. Like I legit didn't want to talk to her.
Yeah, while he was in the midst of dying.
And then my husband Chuck does all the poor Chuck, if anyone needs a compliment, it's him. He does so much. And like my line is I dye the yarn, but he is shipping and the labeling and doing the emails, and half of the emails that are signed Keith are really him. And where was I going with this?
When you were dyeing my yarn.
Oh, he walked into the garage and he was just like, I gave Shayna a discount. And I was like, what? I was like, no, I was so mad. Like I was acting like, so basically show you the 6,000 mini skeins I have. Shayna came to me about this Hanukkah box like last year, that basically right after the holidays, and had this great idea. And I was like, that's a great idea. I don't want to do it. And she was like, well, will you dye the yarn if I just like do it as a thing by myself? And I was like, sure. So we ordered, she wanted worsted in my custom milled worsted, but in mini skeins. So we ordered them, and oh my God, let me tell you, those little mini skein sets, first of all, if anyone gets my emails, I just put my friend Josh at Blue Fiber makes incredible ones, but I don't think you're like, from a dyeing perspective, you have to dye each mini. You have to twist each mini. You have to label each mini. Oh my God, they came out incredible.
They did.
We really did. And I think I obsessed a little bit more than usual. But I messed them up. The mill sends them in big bundles and they're like little mini baby hanks. I'm like trying to take them apart and it just turns into a knot. And like, I'm throwing away like pounds of yarn. Like it was fun.
It was stressful. It was.
And then he walks in the garage. I gave Shayna a discount.
You know, I've hearing Shayna, I've been talking to Shayna a little bit about this box that she's doing, and what an undertaking it was. I think on both your parts. Keith, I love hearing the nitty gritty about working with mini skeins and why, I think some people might not
So hold on,
understand.
I have a Powerball here. So if you don't know me, I went the other way. Instead of
Yeah.
when everyone was doing those minis, I went big. So I did 500 gram skeins of yarn. Okay. One ball to twist, one ball to dye, one ball to label. Like, man.
And then I asked Keith to dye, 1,000 balls for me. But yeah, Amy, what were you?
Yeah, well, I think people don't always appreciate that, with the minis, okay, it's this, if it's this much yardage overall, but these are all different colors and they have to be dyed and labeled and twisted, and there's a lot more work that goes into them.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, this is a bundle of a bunch of minis because I'm getting ready to get them ready for the kids. But yeah, this is one little mini. So each one has to have its own treatment of they have to be taken care of. So anyway, it is a lot of work, and I appreciate you, Keith.
And Shaina, you did 9 designs for this box, right? This was a huge project.
Time it seemed like a great idea. Like I just kept knitting and knitting and knitting, and then now that I'm sitting here and I'm like, whoa, I have to edit all these patterns and photograph them and get them up. Like it's a little bit of a bigger deal, but yeah, the patterns are pretty awesome. Some of them are just fun little things like the headband, like this, and like wrist warmers and things that are simple. So I have a couple easy patterns for beginner knitters, and then a couple more challenging ones like a stranded colorwork hat. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun putting it all together, and I cannot wait to see, first of all, these patterns done up in the Hanukkah kits, but also in people's odds and ends of worsted weight yarn. Like I can't wait to see these hats done in self-striping yarns and other combinations. And I know Keith has some more mini skeins in his dye studio, so we might come up with some other combinations and new patterns for different colors.
Chuck was like, well, if we're getting minis for Shaina, why don't we get a few kilos extra? And then I don't like when we buy yarn, like we don't buy it by the ball, we buy it by weight. And like if we order 300 kilos, it's never, you don't get exactly what you order. It's always like a few 80 pounds more. So you'll be seeing more minis.
Well, we're going to come up with fun things to do with them. I'm excited about it, although I guess I'm not the one dyeing them, so I get to be excited.
I need to put these on my website, and I like, people are going to laugh at me for saying this, but I love the yarn in its cream color. Like, I really do. I love the cream. Sometimes like, I don't want to say I'm ruining the yarn, but like, I think that there's something so classic and beautiful about the cream. So each their own.
And I think that's so important. If you have to love the base before you can have a great finished yarn with color on it.
Dude, that was a whole different, that was an issue 2 years ago.
So how did you come to get the yarn from the place that you're getting it from now?
So the only reason, well, I guess I am very buy as you go, where my husband is more buy a lot at a better price. So that, a company like Madeline Tosh or Malabrigo will have their own base where most of the dyers will get their yarn from, a company that sells undyed yarn. The problem is, the reason I wanted to make my base wasn't really because I wanted to save 20 cents, because really for me, that doesn't, it's something, but at the end of the day, I'm not going through 600,000 skeins of yarn a year. But I wanted my yarn has a cable ply. So if you take my yarn and split it apart, it is 8 plies, but it's not just 8 that are twisted together like it usually is. It's 4 strands of 2. So the yarn is spun in these double plies. So it's 2, 4, 6, 8, and then those 4 double plies are run through the machine again and spun together again. I find that I feel like the dye sits on top. Like, and the only way I can say it is like if you were to take a scissor and cut the yarn, it's not, it goes all the way through, but in my head, I feel like it's white on the inside because the dye sits at the surface. That's part of how I get the vibrancy in my colors. It also is really strong and it reduces pilling. There was one of the undyed companies that made the yarn. It was very expensive and they only had it in a worsted. So that's when we started contacting mills and sending samples and creating the base. So that's the main reason why we have the custom base. As you could see, you have to order a lot of it at a time. So it has pros and cons, but and every time, I don't understand that every day yarn is leaving this place. So I look at this and I go, oh, we have a lot of yarn. Like it's going to be like that for the rest of my life. And so.
I love hearing why you as a dyer like cabled yarn, because as a knitter and as a spinner, I'm familiar with, what cabled yarn structure brings.
Cable. It's not a chainette. It's not a chainette.
Yeah. No, it's not a chainette. It's cable. Yes. As a spinner, at least we would call that a cabled yarn.
Cable ply.
Yeah. Cable plied yarn. So, and all the things you said about, the reduced pilling and the strength, and, cabled yarn sits next to the stitches sit next to each other a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate all that as a knitter, but I hadn't thought about what that structure does for the way that it takes color. And I think that's really interesting.
It is insane how differently yarns take color. I mean, and here's another thing. If I were to put a ball of my worsted in a pot with a ball of my mohair, they basically come out two different colors. So that's why I don't like the whole science thing, because I can get the mohair to look like the worsted, but I need to use 8 times more dye.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, every little thing affects the next thing. And superwash too. That's why you see pretty much everything is superwash. It takes the colors,
Mm-hmm.
Regular wool does not dye the same as a superwashed wool. Once it's treated, that's what it will suck the color up.
And Shaina, do you have anything to share about, sort of the experience of working with that yarn? Because you've designed with it quite a lot.
I've knit more in Keith's yarn than he has. I love it. I've knit sweaters in it. It's bouncy and soft, and it just knits up beautifully. Like I couldn't stop knitting those Hanukkah projects. So I knit 9 items, and some of them are 2 things, like 2 wrist warmers or a pair of socks. So, it's really just lovely to knit with. It's one of those yarns, what would I call it? Like a desert island yarn, where if you could only knit with a few yarns for the rest of your life, this would be one of them for me. It's bouncy and soft and stands up well. And that's what I really love about it. So kudos, Keith. You've done it. You've done it.
We also, because of that, instead of profiting off of that price break we get from ordering in quantity, we went lower in micron count. So most of the hand-dyed yarn out there is a 21 micron, and we have a 19.5, which is where you get the softness. Because the funny thing is, the cable ply takes away a lot of the softness. So then we went lower in micron count to get the softness back there. And that's the micron is the diameter of the fiber. Is that correct? The diameter. So like if you took a piece of hair and you cut through it, like how, yeah. Like cashmere is like a 16. So the lower the number, the higher the quality.
Yeah, human hair is like 60 something or
wow.
Yeah. So I've really enjoyed getting to learn so much more about your yarn, and Shaina, your designs and your joint relationship and the collaboration and the work that you're all doing together.
I can't wait to go inside and tell Chuck that they put me on the spot to say nice things about Shaina.
I know. You need a drink now after this, really. Oh, poor Keith.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for spending some time with me tonight.
So much fun.
Yeah. And thank you to our audience members for coming and hanging out tonight. I do this about once a month. My podcast is called Wouldn't It Be Fun? I do it on live on Zoom, and we have our live audience members. Thank you all for being here, and we're live on YouTube Live. And this time we were live on Facebook Live too, which was super fun and a new experiment. So we'll see if that worked. I don't know. I hit the button. We'll see if it actually shows up. Right.
Did we get questions or anything on there? Is
I
that
didn't see any extra questions, but if anybody has some more, get them in there in the chat, and we'll see if we can get a couple more minutes to get any of those answered. Next month, my guest is going to be Ms. Patty Lyons. She's joining me on Wednesday, November 17th. Same bat time, same bat channel, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And of course, I'm looking forward to that a whole lot. But this was terrific. Thank you guys so much for coming and spending the time with us tonight.
Barbara asked where to purchase Keith's yarn. That would be yarnsnobyarns.com. Right, Keith?
Yep. And I'm just going to show quickly, if you are interested in the yarns, for Shaina's designs, everything that we really spoke about, we have a really easy page on the website. From the home page, you go shop by project, and then everything's put into kits. This is actually another one of Shaina's. We didn't talk about this, but it's called the fireworks cardigan. So everything that we spoke about is in there, and then some. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. And hope to see you back here again.
Yes, and please, you can sign up for my newsletter at shainabilow.com. Thank you all so much.
And you can find Keith, as we said, at Yarn Snob Yarns. You can find me at deviousnutter.com or on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as @devioussknitter.
Thank you so much, Amy, for hosting this. This was really fun.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks. Good night.
Bye.